But what they don't know, and what Christ is trying to tell them, is all of what's coming, all of the courage and strength that it will take, the ways that their faith will be tested. You know, in Swami Kriyananda's book, The Art and Science of Raja Yoga, in the introduction, he has a comment, he has one line that he says, the path of meditation, or really the path of inward religion, the path of self-realization, requires a revolution of the mind. And he goes on to say that that revolution is turning away from all of the attitudes and all of what the world is asking us and telling us we should be. And I love that term revolution, because really what he's saying on one level, that the path of yoga, the path of truth, asks us to turn away, to revolve. It's a revolution away from that which the world is teaching us. But what is the other context of a revolution? It's an uprising of your consciousness. And here Jesus is, and everyone is celebrating, and the disciples are here, and they think this is it. We've reached it. This is the moment. But then what happens the next day, right after Palm Sunday? Jesus enters into the temple, and here he is, and he overthrows the money changers, right? Because here we are in the temple, and it's Passover week, it's the festivals, and he sees all of the greed, all of the corruption, and he goes in and he says, you're making a mockery of my Father's house. This is a house of prayer. And he says, you are thieves and robbers. And he starts creating chaos, and he's overturning all of the tables, and the money is flying everywhere, and you can just imagine the animals are being released. And all of his disciples are looking at him and they're saying, what is he doing? Here we are. They were just celebrating us. What happens now? And these tests of faith that come along the way. In fact, the test of faith is so strong that even Judas betrays him in the midst of all of this, just a few days later. And Jesus keeps saying, you don't know what is coming. Be ready. Follow the light. Harness your consciousness. Hold on to it. Hold on to the light while you still have it. But the disciples, they can't see it. And as they get closer and closer, here they are, and they're saying to Jesus, I'll follow you anywhere. I will do anything that you ask of me. And what does he say? One by one, all of you will scatter like the wind. And of course, this is what happens. We won't give away too much of the story because you have to come back on Friday night to find out the next step. But all along the way, what we begin to see, there's a beautiful story that happens in the midst of this week that's not often shared. At least I hadn't heard it in all of the years that I sat right here in a Catholic church when I was a young child. But I just read it a few days ago, and it's Jesus and the fig tree. And during this week, Jesus and his disciples were staying in Bethany in the home of Lazarus and Martha and Mary. We all know Lazarus. Just a few months before this event happens, he raises Lazarus from the dead. Maybe not even months, it might actually have been weeks. He raises Lazarus from the dead. So they're traveling back and forth between Bethany and Jerusalem all during this week. And on one of the walks, as they're walking back from Bethany back into the Jerusalem, into the city, they come across a fig tree. So Jesus is walking, and he wants to eat a piece of fruit off of this fig tree. So he walks up to the fig tree, and he sees that it hasn't bared any fruit. And he curses the fig tree. And the fig tree begins to wilt. And he says, you're not bearing any fruit. And the fig tree, just right in front of his eyes and in front of the eyes of his disciples, wilts and disintegrates. And his disciples are shocked, and they say, how do you have such power in this moment? And he says to them, if you have faith, will have this power and more. He says, if you have faith, you will have the power to call out to the mountain, jump into the sea, and it will jump into the sea. So you see all of these stories that are happening, all of the power that Jesus is showing as he's overthrowing. It seems like chaos. It seems like he's wilting away from what he is actually here, what his disciples want him to do, to stand up and to glorify himself. But he's just pulling away from it instead, because he's showing his disciples, you must have faith to walk the same path that I'm walking, the same steps that I am walking. And he says to them, as the disciples keep saying, we will be with you, we will always follow you. And he's saying to them, you will turn away one by one by one. And of course, this is what happens as we go through. The chaos becomes more and more intense. The fear, the ego, the pull of the ego becomes more real. For each of these disciples, as they begin to see their teacher arrested, as they begin to see their teacher taken away, as they begin to question what it is that their teacher is doing. And for each one of us, the allegory that's present in that, that's latent in that, is that reality of where is our consciousness? We stand the disciple in front of the guru, the truth seeker in front of God, and we say, I am yours. This is it. This is everything I've ever wanted. I will never turn away. But then what happens? Moment by moment, life comes. Things become difficult, hard, traumatic. We turn away. We think God has forsaken us. We question what it is that God is doing. Why are you giving me this? Why are you walking into the temple where everyone is celebrating you and uprooting in chaos all of what is happening? We begin to question the path that we're walking and what Jesus is showing us in this week, or what Jesus is asking us through all of the examples that we see in this week. How deep is your faith? How solid is your faith? Will you walk with me no matter where I go? And we think that we will, and we want to so deeply, and we're so sincere in our hearts.